Walking a path along the roots of Pikes Peak, you take a fork in the road to the Anselm Society Digital Pub. Inside is a raucous conversation on the arts, faith, and whether anybody has a quick way to make $1 billion. At a corner table by the fire are 3 people. One of them is yelling at an empty chair. And that's me, Matthew Mellema. And welcome to Believe to See, a podcast of the Anselm Society Arts Guild. Here at Believe to See, we explore the relationship between faith, art, and storytelling. Our goal is to help you connect the great stories, in our own stories in order to understand what it means to live with a Christian imagination. All right, let's talk Disney. No, none of that culture war stuff. I mean their movies, those dramatic sigh, live-action remake movies. So, I probably don't need to tell any of y'all that Disney has been making live-action reboots of pretty much any animated movie it can think of. And because I'm essentially a grumpy old man at heart, it should not surprise anyone to hear that I'm opposed to pretty much every single one of them on principle. I just don't think there's any valid reason why an animated classic like Beauty and the Beast or The Lion King needs a live-action reboot. And no, the fact that these reboots basically let Disney print their own money is not a valid reason. But as much as I'd like to shake my cane at Disney and tell them to get off my lawn, I think we should do something more productive instead. So on this episode, we're going to compile a list of old Disney movies that we think could actually use a reboot. But before that, we're going to talk some of those current reboots to get me all grumpy. And here to talk me off the edge are Mandy and Christina. Mandy, how are you?
I'm good.
How are you, Christina?
I'm great.
Okay, now excuse me while I yell at a cloud. So before we started recording, we started getting into this, but we might as well put all the cards on the table. So I will give you my background, such as it is, with these live-action remakes. I started off, I saw that Kenneth Branagh Cinderella remake, and I actually thought it was pretty good, right? It was like Lily James' Cinderella, she did fine. And also I thought Kenneth Branagh had a new spin to put on it that it was worthwhile.
Mm-hmm,
I saw part of Jon Favreau's Jungle Book. Again, I thought that was pretty good too, because it had something different to say. But then something seemed to turn, and I had to see Beauty and the Beast under protest. I forget how or what my mom or wife used to guilt me into it. But I had thoughts and feelings. If y'all want to know all of them, I had a full-blown debate with Guild member Tara Owens on one of the early episodes of Believe to See. Go see that. Needless to say, I did not like it, and I refuse to see any and all of these other ones out of principle. So if you're like, oh, this one's actually pretty good if you give it a chance. No, I'm not giving it a chance. Stop. So that's me.
Yeah.
How about you, Mandy?
Yeah, I have not seen all of them. I did not know Jungle Book was Jon Favreau. Now I want to see it. I like him. I mean, he did Elf. Hello. So, sorry, please excuse my cat. He really was just fed. He's yelling. But anyway.
He hates Beauty and the Beast
He
remake
hates
too.
Beauty and the Beast.
Is it that or does he hate Emma Watson?
I don't know. Okay, well, hold on. So, Cinderella, I loved the live action remake of Cinderella. I didn't expect to. I was thoroughly charmed. I loved the deeper storytelling that they went into, especially with the backstory of the mother. It was very tender, and I loved it. And the costuming and everything was beautiful. Beauty and the Beast, so I have a little grumpy old man in me too.
Hey,
and my grumpy old man.
Let's go full-blown Statler and Waldorf, Mandy.
Yes,
Get
there
your
you
canes,
go.
guys.
Yeah.
Marley and Marley. I really take exception to celebrity culture. I don't like celebrity culture in general, particularly when it impacts casting decisions. I love our Emma, but she is not a singer. She should not have been Beauty. Beauty and the Beast, is one of the most beautiful voices in all of their animated films. And so for them to have auto-tuned the heck out of Emma Watson to try to make it work, I love her. I love her as Hermione. I love her. It's nothing against her. That's just the wrong role. And so it just Audra McDonald as a wardrobe all day. Hello. Yes, please. But
they did the same thing with Les Mis. They picked celebrities.
Russell Crowe.
Yes. Oh, Russell Crowe. That made me
you start watching it, and at first you're like, oh, I didn't know Russell Crowe could sing.
No, he can't.
Oh, he can't.
No, he can't. Anyway.
I'm one of those mean people who's also like, okay, guys, Anne Hathaway cannot sing like so many other people. Like, please. Yeah. She's a great actress.
She did an excellent job with the acting, but
yes, but not the singing.
Not the singing.
It was the musical rendition.
Also, side note, we were sitting in the front row because we went and saw that on Christmas Day, and the worst movie to see in the front row is that adaptation.
That makes sense.
Les Mis. We were in Anne Hathaway's freaking nostril, man.
Oh,
because everything was extreme close up. But that's a story for another podcast. Anyway, so I did not like Beauty and the Beast. And I haven't seen any of the others. And I keep meaning to see Little Mermaid because my daughters absolutely loved it. They thought it was beautiful. The Little Mermaid.
No, I meant both Bethany and Emmy loved it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I think my son-in-law did too.
I haven't seen it.
I cannot, as I said in the green room, by principle, cannot see Aladdin because a good friend of mine almost got the part of Aladdin. He was one of the top 3 and then didn't get it. So I can't see that one. Sorry. Not sorry. So yeah, I'm dreading the day they decide to make Hunchback of Notre Dame live.
You know they're going to.
Oh, I know they're going to because like you said, they can print money.
Basically, that's actually interesting because for a while they could. Like the really crappy Lion King remake, which is basically the original except worse.
Yeah.
So
which is Hamlet.
So
good,
the big difference here is the original Lion King is a good movie.
Yeah.
And the new one has all the same elements except in the form of a bad movie. So that's the major difference. It made over $1 billion.
Oh,
but
Lord.
Recently, like The Little Mermaid.
But also it didn't have good reviews, though, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Because, The Little Mermaid did not do well. Like, it was a disappointment at the box office.
That's sad.
Well, I think it might show something that some audiences are kind of getting tired of this shtick.
Yeah, we've seen this.
I was looking at some of the musical numbers they did for The Little Mermaid, and doing the CGI is just weird, right?
Oh.
Like what's the name? Halle something for who is the Little Mermaid in the
I can't
updated
remember.
One?
I just
she
know
looks
my
fine.
girls
Like
love
she
her.
looks great. Nothing wrong with that. But other than her, I was just like, I can't. Why would you want? Because like the colors aren't as vibrant. The fish aren't animated. They look photorealistic in a creepy way. So it's basically like all the songs are remixed in a generic way in a less colorful and interesting background.
Oh.
You want to pay $20 to see that?
Oh, okay.
Anywho,
how do you really feel? I'm not getting enough
I'm not getting a vibe from that,
Christina, where do you stand?
On the remakes in general?
Yeah, it's a classic animated movie. Let's make it into a crappy live action and get money off of it, you know.
That's a loaded.
Am I allowed to give my own adjectives?
No.
Bummer. All right. Well, he's the engine for this one, I guess.
Yes.
No, I'm just kidding. No, honestly, I really think they're as far as I was concerned, there was no need to do any of these remakes. I feel like, and even just judging from my own kids who still love the versions that I grew up with, even the 1950s Cinderella.
Oh,
and
beautiful.
They're lovely, and like I don't want to say timeless because that's not tested and time proven quite yet, but I mean, like that was my grandmother's childhood and my children love it and they're her great grandchildren. So I feel like to have to say, oh, wait, no, we're going to take this and make it into live action because, I feel like there's a lack of imagination and a little bit of a how can we make some dollars that really bugs me because they really didn't have to be messed with. Now, that being said, I do think there is value in retelling a story with a different medium, or at least a different approach. And so I do totally understand how it could be interesting to take a cartoon and put it into like a real person shot for shot, kind of like it is take a book and put it into a movie, right? So I totally get that there's a way in which changing mediums can make something more fresh and interesting. However, unfortunately, I don't think that that's why Disney did what they did. I don't think they could claim the integrity of art itself.
So is that your objection, is because of the why behind it?
That's a good question. I would say the why, perhaps, but also I think, intentions.
To that, I would also add the
can-
what, who, where, and how.
Okay, well,
In addition to the why.
honestly, though, sometimes that is because of the why, right? Oh, because that is
Well,
that
that's
is
true.
The why makes all of that happen. Like,
But the Cinderella remake, was that the first one they did?
That was
live
the
action?
okay,
first-
so that was the first
And that
one
one
they
made
did.
me so optimistic. because
Probably
it
the
really-
best.
Because it really was so beautiful and well done.
Well,
and
It was
they
also
added
Kenneth Branagh, though.
to the story.
Yeah, they had something original to say about it.
You know,
Okay, here's the thing, though.
it would have been a little bit sort of like the remix episode that we just did.
Almost,
I'm
yeah.
sorry, Christina, go ahead.
Oh, no, you're fine. So what I was going to say about the Kenneth Branagh one is that, and I had forgotten actually until we were doing the research for this episode, I was like, oh yeah, Kenneth Branagh did direct that one. But he has a stage background. He has a classic literature background.
There you go.
He has studied the original fairy tales. So the reason the Cinderella remake was so well done, in my opinion, and actually most people's opinions, I say most people. Sorry, didn't mean to like claim everyone's opinions
All
for
people
them.
with good taste.
But from like, no. People
but
who
from what
have,
you've heard,
yeah,
right.
and from people
Yeah.
judging all the remakes in general, Cinderella tends to be the one that has the highest reviews. So from that, I would argue it's because Kenneth Branagh wanted to go back to the roots of the story and the integrity of the actual fairy tale before making it into a live action.
He was not doing a remake necessarily of the 1950s
No.
animated movie. He was telling the story of Cinderella.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
There's a huge
That's a good
difference
point.
there.
Exactly.
Like, when you look at something like The Lion King, the original animated Lion King, I love. I think it's a fantastic movie.
Yeah,
There's
it's pretty good.
no need to remake it.
Right.
But then when it's remade, first of all, is it really live action if literally every single character is animated using CG?
I know.
That's a very good point.
So-
I know, it's
But also it just means that like
so funny.
when you're animating it traditionally, you can give a lion a mouth that can talk and it looks fine. But when they're all photorealistic
smile.
lions, you can't show expressions.
No.
Just like, again, you're taking this beautiful thing and just making it worse.
Yes.
And it's essentially a shot-for-shot remake.
I've heard that argument so many times as regards
okay,
Lion
yeah,
King.
that is weird. Okay, now I need to watch it.
And
Right?
I understand, Krista, you made a point earlier about how sometimes change the medium can refresh. And you are absolutely right in some cases.
Right, exactly.
But there's not, to me, I really don't understand this assumption that so many people have that the ultimate pinnacle of a thing is a live action movie.
That's
so like
true.
a movie's better than a TV show, and in a live action movie's better than an animated movie. Why?
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 I feel like there's a lot of reasons.
No,
No, not good reasons. Reasons that people say this.
Yeah.
I just don't like, if something is beautifully animated, why shoot it in generic, ugly? I don't get it.
Yeah, especially when you
Yeah.
think back to like the originals, like Cinderella, which was hand drawn, and
Yeah,
like
right.
Sleeping Beauty. They haven't done a Sleeping Beauty remake, have they?
Well, they did Maleficent, which was awful.
No,
sure.
I would argue that's not a remake.
Like
Maleficent was awful.
Angelina Jolie's cheekbones are a wonder of the world.
Yeah,
Right.
but
the story
Kristen
was terrible.
Stewart
The story
as
was
Snow
terrible.
White? No.
yeah, that's a complete like.
Oh,
Yeah.
Snow White and the Huntsman.
Oh, is that the
Yeah,
one I'm
was a
talking
that's
about?
actually a different thing.
Okay,
That
but just don't get me started about Kristen Stewart.
I think
No,
nobody
don't
likes
get
Kristen
me
Stewart
started.
anymore.
Don't get me
Unk.
started.
Nobody likes her anymore. Yeah.
But what was
never
I
did.
saying? I was complaining about that and that. Oh, yeah. So anyway, so those are the two things that those are two more things that I sincerely dislike. But any more preliminaries on the state of the the Disney live action remakes. We can be assured that more are coming. I heard like Moana's on the way for some reason, and
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and Hunchback, I'm sure.
but I haven't
honestly,
heard
do you
anything,
know
but
what?
I'm sure.
Okay,
Hunchback should never have been an animated one. We could do a whole podcast on that. What on earth were they thinking? How is that a kid's movie?
Oh, it's not.
Absolutely horrible.
and yet I
So
saw
it should
as
have
a-
been live action first and only.
The thing is, though, I saw it as a kid and loved it because it was so deeply moving. It was sad and I cried, but it was also moving.
I saw it
Well,
once
you are
as a
unique
kid,
child.
and I was never allowed to see it again.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That was so funny. Mandy's like, well, you were a unique
In
child.
an excellent way, in all the best ways.
It's true. I was pretty melancholy.
It's just so dark.
Oh, are they going to
Well,
make
it
a
is
Tarzan,
dark.
you think?
Are they
Probably.
going to? Oh, if they remake Tangled, that's my favorite animated modern day.
Tangled's
Okay.
lovely.
Okay.
Cinderella.
We're jumping.
Cinderella is in its
we're-
own little Cinderella universe, and no one can touch
We are jumping ahead. So
Yeah, we are.
again, we've had our gripe session. Thank
Yeah.
you all for holding me back, or else I'd still be going. But now we're going to turn it to the positive. So we're going to take old Disney properties. So these could be animated films. These could be something else. We can get creative with it that we think actually might need to be remade. And what we're going to do is we're going to make pitches. Right? So we're not just going to be like, hey, here's a beautiful anime movie. What if it was a bland live action movie? No. You can pitch however you want. If you want a live action movie, redo it as an animated movie or whatever.
good.
You want to use puppets, claymation, I don't care. Let's do whatever. Walt Disney Company, you're welcome in advance.
Or are there some animated movies that you want to redo as animated movies because they failed the first time?
Yes.
Okay. I wasn't speaking from my own. I don't have that in my brain. I was just asking.
I do. So I'm glad
But I
you
think you do,
yes.
and I think I remember which one it is.
Yeah, so now let's do it. So I am going to start us off with a movie that I feel I really go back and forth. It's either a great movie with some big flaws or a flawed movie with a few great moments. And I'm talking about 2001's Atlantis: The Lost Empire.
That was not the one I thought you were going to say.
Aha. Well,
I've heard some very different things about that. I've heard some people said it was actually quite beautiful and isn't well known enough.
I think maybe they should just make that into a Muppet movie.
well, that's probably going to be the answer for everything, right?
It is the
But-
answer for everything.
So 2001 is a really interesting time for Disney. It's the Disney Renaissance is over, right? This run that went from basically Little Mermaid through Tarzan, and they're kind of trying to find their footing. So one of the different things they're trying is they have an animated movie, but without the musical numbers, and that's more like traditionally action oriented.
Mhm.
So that's what Atlantis is. So basically the premise is this sort of nerdy academic voiced by Michael J. Fox. He's brought onto this expedition to find the lost continent of Atlantis, and they find it deep under the ocean, and like there's still people there in Atlantis, and it has sort of an old-timey Jules Verne adventure feel. And there's so much about the movie that I love.
And I love that in general, like you said, the old-timey Jules Verne.
Yep. So one of the things I love especially is the way that they developed the Atlantean culture. You can tell they went above and beyond what they had to do. They gave them distinctive like architectural style. They gave the people distinctive clothing, distinctive like daily lifestyles that they showed little snippets of. And they create them as like this weird meshing of all different cultures. Like you can see like Cambodian, Tibetan, Mayan, all mashed together. And
Wow.
it's so cool. They created their own language for the movie that works as sort of this
When did this come out? Did you-
2001.
Wow.
I know, right?
Yeah,
It's
you
not
did
well
say
known
that.
at all. Yeah.
Like, though the shots of them just like going about the daily lives of the Atlantean people, I think are great. I could watch just 3 hours of that.
So they can breathe underwater?
Well, it's sort of
Or it's a whole mythology?
there's
Never
a
mind.
giant
No
crystals are
spoilers.
involved. It's a whole thing.
Okay.
But basically, I think that there are problems with the pacing of the story. There's problems with the plotting, and I described it on my TikTok as an
I love your TikTok.
as an A+ concept with a C+ execution.
Okay.
To me, that is a perfect recipe for
For a
a
remake.
reboot.
Yeah.
I don't want a live action version. I want to keep the animation to keep the beautiful set design, the beautiful look of it. I just want to go back, tighten up some areas of the story, let other areas breathe a little bit more, make the ending make sense. I can go for half an hour about why the ending doesn't make sense.
Okay.
But suffice it to say, I think if we give another shot at Atlantis: The Lost Empire, it could be a legitimately great movie.
Okay.
All right. Mandy, let's hear your first pitch.
So these do or do not have to be Disney?
Ideally, they'd be Disney.
What? Was the Prince Caspian Disney? I mean, it
was...
It was, right?
Or they own it
was
now.
Like Walden. Was Walden been bought off by...
Oh, because wasn't One of Which Wardrobe Disney?
I don't think so.
Really?
They're on Disney Plus now.
Well, then I'm counting it.
Okay, let's count it. It's
I
close
could
enough.
have sworn Disney was actually on the Which Wardrobe. I
They
assume
probably
Prince
bought
Caspian
it.
was the
They
same.
need to redo Prince Caspian and do it correctly this time.
Accurate.
Because I thought they did a wonderful job with Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. It looked like my imagination on the screen. I mean, which really says more about C.S. Lewis because he was so just his descriptions and the world he created was so vivid that it was probably not that hard to put it on the screen the way he described it, that, you know, Mr. Tumnus and all that. But then Prince Caspian, the premise of that book is about the magic has left Narnia and then it is reborn. And that is not what the movie was. The movie was battle scenes and a freaking love story between Susan and Caspian. What?
I know.
And
I hated
it
that.
had
So bad.
It was.
Caspian gives this like sultry look.
I know,
Oh,
it's
I
a
know.
smolder. It was
it's like,
Finn
I'm
smolder.
going to gouge out my own eyes.
Yeah.
The weird thing is, like, even people who are obsessed with Susan herself as a character hated Prince Caspian's love interest in her. That's not how it goes, people. Prince Caspian is so noble, and then they take him and make him this like lovesick teenager who's like pining over never. Sorry,
But again, what I would say that to me, that book is not even that much about Prince Caspian as it is. If you flip through the book, just listener, pick up your version. Hopefully it is the little line drawn illustrated version. And if you just flip through it, all the illustrations, and I didn't check this recently, so I might be wrong, but in my brain, I remember the illustrations were all about the magic returning to Narnia and the animals talking and the magic coming back. That is what the book Prince Caspian is about. That's the core heart of the book. And that is why Prince Caspian, like Queen Esther, he was there for such time as this to bring the magic back. That's what the core and the heart of Prince Caspian is. It's not a battle movie, and it's even less a love story. And I mean, how much of the movie was taken up by battle scenes? Oh my goodness.
Oh, yeah.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah,
So-
and to that point, I think the fundamental flaw with those movies, I think you can see them in all of them, but it's particularly stark in Prince Caspian, is they fundamentally misunderstand what the stories are.
Yes.
The stories are stories, period. They're not epic fantasies.
There you
They're not sprawling battle stories. They're stories. Look at the word count. They're all short. They're stories.
That's true.
You almost felt like they were trying to pad out the runtime with unnecessary battles.
Do you think they were trying to make them like the Lord of the Rings? Like
Yeah, exactly.
If Tolkien had written Prince Caspian.
No, it's basically
and that's
like-
not to diss Tolkien, but
But the movies messed up Tolkien in that regard too.
Yeah,
like
true.
They really inflated the battle scenes in the movies as compared to the book. There aren't a whole lot of battle scenes in the book if you actually read it. But you almost get the impression like, okay, well, this studio has the Tolkien IP. We have Lewis IP. That can be sort of the same.
Yeah.
Let's get swords and let's get hot people smolder at each other, right? So that seemed to be the fundamental issue that all the other stuff sprang from. It's like, let's take this story and shoehorn it into the epic battle template.
Yep.
And it doesn't fit well.
No, it doesn't.
Yep. All right. Well, that is it. Well, interesting.
I
along
would
these lines,
still want it to be live action, but I feel like because I want, or maybe if it were beautifully
animated in the same style as the illustrations for the original books.
Oh, wow. But that would be all black and white. No.
You could just add color. You
That's
could
true.
colorize it.
Yeah.
And to this point, I think, I'm trying to read, there's some rumors going around.
I know Greta.
Yeah, that Netflix might do a series on it.
No, they're going, yeah.
Yeah, so you might get your wish.
And I wasn't sure about it, but one of our Anselm friends, Jacoby, actually posted the other day a clip of her talking about the story, about Narnia, and it gave me hope, because she really seems to have an understanding for the story and a love for the story. And I think that really is what comes into it. If someone's going to remake something, and that kind of goes back to what we were saying about Cinderella, and that Kenneth Branagh wasn't really, his source material wasn't the Disney movie, it was the source material.
Well, in Gerwig,
and so his love for the source material created something beautiful.
Yeah, and Gerwig did something very similar with Little Women. I thought her adaptation of it was fantastic.
Yes.
I don't super duper love Little Women as a book, but I thought the Gerwig movie was great and really captured what the book was about.
Right.
So if she can do that with Chronicles of Narnia, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That's Mandy's pitch. Christina, your turn.
I have nothing to pitch that I wish was remade, but that's probably.
You want to pitch things you wish weren't remade? Because I have lots of those too.
No, yeah, right. No, it's funny because my thing with Disney's thing is how they keep trying to remake or redo or retell stories that actually don't really need retelling in quite the way they're assuming they do. Because I think again, it's like there's something about remixing that has a lot of value, right? Like kind of like we had talked about. The three of us recorded a podcast about remixing stories. No idea when it's going to air, but like there's a value to remixing plots and genres and places and putting them together in a way that's valuable and new and fresh. But remaking something slavishly for like a sequel for more money, or like, oh, well, this was popular, so clearly we can build on it. To me is a little bit...
To that point then, I think the sweet spot then is you shouldn't focus on movies that you like. You should focus on movies that you like the premise of, but the execution was poor.
And then that would be something that should be remade.
So that's what you're saying?
Yes.
Let's see.
Well, so while you're thinking about it, I have another one. So maybe this will be an example for you. So another one that I think could actually use a remake is Sword in the Stone. So
that's the one I thought you were going to say first.
Yep.
I was waiting for that one.
My husband agrees with you, Matthew.
So, it's really interesting because you can really see the eras of Disney where they had the initial outburst of great movies, so like Snow White, Sleeping Beauty, Pinocchio. Then they had the Renaissance starting with Little Mermaid. In between, watching some of these movies with grown-up eyes, you see some of them aren't the best.
Yeah.
The remakes or originals?
The originals.
The originals. So you're talking about Sword of Stone. Okay.
Yeah, Sword of Stone is one, and Jungle Book is another. One of the reasons why the Jon Favreau remake of Jungle Book was successful is that the original Jungle Book movie wasn't very good.
It's fun to watch.
It's a pastiche of different musical numbers that are lightly stitched together into something resembling a story. And that's what Sword in the Stone is as well, but only cranked up to 11. Okay. And let me start with the original source material, right? Because it's based on the 1938 novel Sword in the Stone by T.H. White. So it's part of the Once and Future King series, right? Series of 4 books. I love these books so much Some parts haven't aged super well, but I think they are great. It's a retelling of King Arthur, Knights of the Round Table, starting Sword in the Stone when Arthur's a boy, going all the way through the end, and he's killed in the final book. They're great. Sword in the Stone is great. It talks about his education by Merlin in something that Arthur doesn't realize at the time as a boy, but he's being trained to be a king through specific life lessons and being turned into different magical things. Okay, so all-time great book as source material. What's the movie? Here's the plot. I'm going to give you the actual plot.
Okay, I'm ready.
Arthur meets Merlin. Merlin turns Arthur into a fish. They sing. Merlin turns Arthur into a squirrel. They sing. Merlin turns Arthur into a bird. They sing. Arthur becomes king. That's it. It's musical numbers lightly stitched together. And at the end, Arthur becomes king because it's
just because.
Bad. It's bad. And it's such a good source material.
It's amazing source material.
Yeah.
So I would...
It's insulting, really.
I would love to see this done properly. Give me an animation style, similar... What's the name of the guy? Oh, gosh, I'm going to look this up later. The guy who was in charge of the animation for Sleeping Beauty. Give me that sort of animation style. Give me proper character development. Give me something that's more true to the source material. And we have the makings of a really beautiful animated film.
I could see that.
Let's just scrap this and start over.
Yeah.
So that is my second pitch. So again, something that has a great premise, but is very flawed in the execution. Does that help you, Christina, as you're mulling about this?
I mean, perhaps. The one that comes to mind, and I don't think I'm the only one either, based on just like internet browsing and stuff, but Pocahontas. Yeah, so don't get me wrong. I think Colors of the Wind, the
Have you
animation.
ever heard the wolf cry to the blue corn moon?
Amazing. Yes. It's literally one of my favorite songs to sing, and the animation that goes with it is stunning. The colors and the and again
sorry. I am interrupting you to give some trivia, and I apologize in advance. But Pocahontas was being made around the same time as Lion King, and and at the time Disney thought Pocahontas was the A project and Lion King was the B project.
Oh, interesting.
So they put their best animators at Pocahontas.
Really?
And you can tell that it's more like pushing the boundaries creatively, like they're doing more bold creative choices visually.
Yeah, very much.
Because they had the A team because they thought Pocahontas was the main show.
How fun.
Wow, that's
fun.
Anyway,
how dare they underestimate Hamlet?
Yeah, there you go, Mandy. Thank you. And do the listeners know that Lion King was based on Hamlet?
I hope
Ask
so.
Mandy because
Think
she
about
knows.
it.
Yes, it's true, actually.
Yep.
But Pocahontas, I feel like, first of all, sadly, I think that the whole story of Pocahontas was obviously, sadly romanticized over the years.
Oh, wait.
Yes.
I mean, John was not a hunk.
He was not who the Disney made him out to be.
Yeah.
He was cute he's very handsome and romantic and buff and all the things and blonde. Like, why was he blonde?
Perfectly clean shaven.
Not Swedish,
And
I'm sorry.
the same age as Pocahontas.
Oh,
roughly.
I know. And
But
Pocahontas
anyway.
actually looks like she's 35, just saying.
Right.
And she was like, 14?
Something, maybe.
Sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
But so I love the song. I love that entire scene. I love even Pocahontas, the way she's animated. She looks, I think,
it's a beautifully animated film.
it is a beautifully animated film, and the musical, at least that musical number to it just gets me every time, and I love singing it. The singer that they got to sing is just stunning. However, the rest of the movie is just forgettable and sad and completely inaccurate, and it's actually, if you think about it, like a super interesting story.
Yeah.
In fairness, it might not be for like kids because it has some
a la
quite
Hunchback.
tragic, has tragic elements. Like Pocahontas, marries John Smith, goes to England, has a kid, and
John
promptly
Rolfe.
dies.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
So I'm going to tell you a little bit of family trivia here. So my grandpa Bob was descended from this sort of old money family.
Grandpa Bob.
And as old money people are wont to do, they claimed heritage from Pocahontas. This apparently was a common thing to do for a certain sort of old money white family back in the day.
Really?
So common that, remember when there were those horrible laws against like white people marrying other races? They had an exception for white people who had heritage from Pocahontas.
No
Oh my
way.
So many
gosh.
did.
Are you serious?
So it's always been a family. It's always been a family sort of like, we're related to her.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
So
No
yeah,
idea.
Probably not.
probably not.
Yeah.
But we like to claim it.
You never know.
We'll take her.
She seems pretty cool. Yeah, but I feel
Yeah,
like
I like that. That would be a good one to redo
I think so,
appropriately.
too.
But I think,
yeah.
do you think it would need to be live action?
Oh gosh, I know.
The thing is the thing that the original has going for it is the animate. Like that's its selling point. The good thing
and the
is
music
the
is the
animation.
thing.
But the only reason that works is because it's idealized and it's not true to the source
Right,
material.
exactly. The Colors of the Wind is a very idealized, beautiful, new agey sort of approach to how some people thought Native Americans might have viewed the world. And while there might be some accuracies, okay, Matthew's just humming Colors of the Wind. See, but I get
it's
it.
your
It's so
background
catchy.
music.
It's so catchy, and I hear you.
We're adding background music to the podcast. It's a new feature. Continue.
Oh, I like the idea that he's backing me up. He's my
Yeah,
backup singer
that's
what I'm
for
saying.
the importance of what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I'll swell to a crescendo as you're getting. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
No, I feel again. It's funny because even though this film was made with, as far as I know, zero like Christian motives, like there's so much about that song that just speaks to me as a Christian, as someone who's like, have you noticed this world? Have you actually listened to the wolf cry? Have you looked at this moon? Have you like there's just something so like, look around you, notice the beauty. It says more than you think it does.
Yeah. Why'd you stop
and just the
humming?
whole-
This is perfect.
Yeah. I need my background
To
vocals.
sing with all the voices of the mountain.
And paint with the colors of the wind.
Paint with all the colors of the wind.
Exactly. That's the thing. I mean, the whole premise of her basically saying like, stop conquering the world and see it. Like, well, that's a little bit like, I mean, it was made
something
for
there,
a time, but
yeah.
there's
Something
definitely
there. Yes.
something there. And that sounds like another Disney song. But anyway, I think there is something deeply good about some of that was like trampled over by the rest of the movie and the inaccuracy of the story. Yeah.
Okay, so I feel like what you want.
What
you
do I want, Matthew?
A gritty real life one.
Not necessarily.
Sort of
no.
like what was the
No,
that Terrence Malick movie, The New World? Where you really like dive in, you're like, we're gonna be friggin' historically accurate.
Right,
We're
no.
gonna have all sorts of consultants on these people groups. We're
haven't seen
gonna
it.
nail it. I feel like
need to
that
see
would
it.
be the direction to go in.
See, I don't know that that's necessarily true because we're talking about a Disney remake, and I don't think Disney does that stuff. I feel like
Disney
I
won't
could go
do any
to
of my
Terrence
stuff,
Malick and
but-
say, "Hey, Terrence Malick, will you make a Pocahontas story?" That's not what I feel like here's the thing: asking Disney to remake something, I would not have any faith in asking Disney because I don't.
Well, take it away
think-
from Disney.
Well, that's
Yeah,
why
okay,
they,
so
that's
if I
why
were
they
to take
invented podcasts, so I can give mine.
So
Yeah.
we can just ask anybody to make
yeah,
Pocahontas.
that's our. Hey, this is
Oh,
Fantasyland.
okay.
We're pitching whatever.
We're pitching the best director. Okay.
You
I
can give
see,
it to
I
Greta
see.
Gerwig.
Yeah,
You could give
okay.
it to, I don't know,
Okay.
anybody. I was going to say Francis Ford Coppola, and then I'm like,
Any
he's
number
dead.
of famous directors.
Any number of them.
I was thinking Francis Ford Coppola, and I'm like, no, he's dead.
Our best
Can't do-
friends.
Yeah.
The directors. No. I don't know who I'd give the story to, but I wouldn't give it to Disney. Well, they've proven
Give it to
themselves
my friend Dana
poorly.
Keltson, friend of the pod.
There we
Burn
go.
at the pot.
He is a writer, actor,
All right,
director.
so
He can do
Mandy.
it. I will hit him up.
Mandy.
Be like, hey. Yeah.
After you hit him up with this proposal,
Yeah.
what is your next pitch?
My next pitch.
Did you just have one?
Another one. Oh no, those are my notes from the last podcast. Oh, okay. Well, I was gonna. This isn't a pitch. This is. Can I answer a different question?
I guess.
I wanted to talk about the wonderful thing that is the new series Lightning Thief. as opposed to the
Oh.
movie that was such a complete
So
wreck.
an example of doing this right.
Yes.
The proof of concept.
Proof
Oh,
of
good.
Let's do it. No, that's good. That's good. Let's do that.
Yeah, let's
Because
do it.
the original Lightning Thief, Percy Jackson Lightning Thief series by Rick Riordan.
You're talking about the novels, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And I did look up, that's how it's pronounced, Riordan. Anyway, I used to read those to the girls, and it was an actually wonderful time of what their stage of life was such that this was I used to always read novels to them, but then this one in particular was the one that they could take it from me and keep reading it to me as I drove us to school. And because they were at the age where they could read it too. So this was a very meaningful, sentimental connection that the girls and I had to Percy Jackson. And when they said they were going to make it into a movie, we were absolutely thrilled. And then we started seeing the commercials and we got a little confused. And then we went ahead and went to the movie theater and we were all excited and we were just devastated. They just messed it up so bad. And Rick Riordan is on record for despising what they did to the movie. And so much so that he made a deal with Netflix, and that was why there was a new remake done in series. And the way they did the series was excellent because they did it by chapter, and they even named the episodes the chapter names, which was great because the chapter names are fantastic. The casting was excellent. The kid that plays Percy in the series is this little actual kid who's awkward, because that is the thing is in the book. If you haven't read the books, it is a key element of the book that Percy Jackson is awkward. That is key. That is important. He is 12. He's at the cusp of the absolute most awkward, cracky voiced, scrawny, awkward kid. And then if you look up the cast for the movie, they're
all 20 and super
they're
hot.
all impossibly hot, and it's just not what it's supposed to be at all. It loses the heart of what the stories were supposed to be. And I have some.
There's a lot of complaints about Hermione, Emma Watson for that role too. When she came,
okay.
because she was so cute, and everyone's like,
okay,
no!
But then if you look at Annabeth as described in the books, and then look at Annabeth in the movie, that is the most ridiculous, swing and a miss. Okay. Anyway, but for the series, it's not perfect because I'm always going to like the book better. But dang, was it so faithful to the source material, and it gave you the same feelings watching it that you and the girls. Emmy is married and lives in Ohio, so we couldn't watch it with her. But Peter and I did watch them with our adult daughter Bethany, and we've all agreed that we're just thrilled with these adaptations, and it's such a good feeling to watch something. And that's how I felt when I watched The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I will say that adaptation, it felt like the life that I got from the books matched the life I got from the movie.
Yeah.
And so I'm really glad that they redid the travesty that was the movie and made it into a series. And along those lines, there's another movie that was made, not as bad. It wasn't as bad of an adaptation, book to movie, but The Book Thief.
Oh goodness, that was so sad.
It was a good movie. It was not the book. Okay? It was not the book. The book is narrated by Death. All of it is narrated, that the first person narrator is Death. They touched on it in the movie and then didn't I don't know. I know it was a beautiful cast and it was directed, the cinematography was great and it was a good movie, but it didn't capture the book. And so in the same way that the Lightning Thief really needed to be a series, the Book Thief needs to be a series. And I think they could do a much better job. And it needs to be narrated, voiceover 100% by Death personified.
No,
it just does, because that's the soul of the book, is Death being reluctant. It's set in World War II. So how gorgeous is that Death is narrating? He's so busy. Like that's how sad. That's what the book is supposed to feel like. Is like
It's
death
a tragic movie, in fairness.
Oh no, I know they captured the tragic.
They
it's hard
really
to
did.
miss the tragic, but the book, death is like sick of being death. Basically, He's like,
Interesting.
oh my gosh, it's a gorgeous, gorgeous book, and it has so much more to it than the movie did.
Good to know.
So I'm not faulting anyone for loving the movie because I really did like the movie, but the book is like
Very different, yeah.
so much more.
Okay.
So
couple things I think will help us all in our pitches going forward there.
yes, sir.
One is you need to keep in mind the medium. Like one of the many mistakes that the Percy Jackson movie did
Yes.
was trying to cram the book into the film.
Yes.
That's always a problem,
That's
right?
my
And
point with Book
anytime
Thief.
you
Yep.
adapt a book into a film, you need a cut, right?
Right.
Because if you just play it straight, it's going to be 12 hours long and nobody's going to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
But the way they cut things with the movie didn't make sense
Right.
and actually crippled them for later on movies because they undercut a lot of the key.
Yeah, you're like,
recurring
where's
elements.
Talia? Hello.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And also the fact that the movie made sort of the cheap, obvious change instead of sticking with what made the book work.
Yes.
Because you can see the, stereotypical Hollywood executive being like, all right, instead of having a 12-year-old awkward kid, let's cast a 20-year-old hot guy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
right?
an even hotter chick.
Yeah, exactly. It's
That's
like,
more marketable.
You know what teens like? They like to watch hot people kiss each other. So let's do
that's
that.
someone who just didn't understand the value of the story.
Exactly. Whereas counterintuitively, having the awkward 12-year-old actually makes it a good story, and people actually watch it if it's a good story.
And
Yeah.
his dyslexia figures in prominently.
Yep.
I do want to ask though, real quick, as far as clarification, going forward in the rest of this podcast, do we want to talk about like books that were made into movies poorly and should be redone? Because like making
Mandy was straying far afield, but it's
I
okay.
was. I'm
It's
sorry.
okay.
No. The reason I'm asking is because I have this
We
big.
can do what we want.
I have this big shtick about like it's very. I get very touchy when we're talking about books that should have been different as a movie, because there's such different mediums that unless you're talking about the actual integrity of the story, which in fairness you were, I'm not talking about you were, but like it's actually a very tricky and sticky conversation.
Oh, there are some that are done really well. Like To Kill a Mockingbird nailed it.
Nice, I haven't seen it.
But
Isn't that
part
sad?
of the reason that worked is because they took multiple characters from the book and smushed them and made like an amalgamation character.
It sounds creative. It sounds like they were thinking like about like the actual story.
Partly because Harper Lee was on set the entire
Nice.
time. So also,
In fairness, that doesn't always work out, but
no, it doesn't. But also Gregory Peck just happens to be cast into two of what I think are the best adaptations, which are The Yearling and To Kill a Mockingbird. And so
nice.
So, and also, just more practically, we don't need to be hemmed in by the 1 hour and 45-minute movie now. You have the series.
Right.
I think one of the reasons Percy Jackson
Like a TV show or
on
something?
Netflix is successful is because it's
a series.
series. So you can take your time. You can devote a full hour-long episode to a single chapter and it works.
Because Percy, as a character, and his little sidekicks go through so much. It's totally a coming-of-age story. It just happens that it's an adolescent demigod, not just a regular adolescent.
I feel like coming of age stories too are so important in this day and age, and I wish there were more noble ones that we had for our kids. And so the fact that you're talking about like, wanting it to be redone, like
But that's why, like, can you do a coming-of-age story justice in 2 hours?
Yeah.
No.
With,
and that's why
when
Percy
your
Jackson,
protagonist is obviously 28 years old.
especially. Yeah, I love how you keep aging him. He was 20, now he's 28.
Yeah. But to that point, Mandy, and I'm glad you brought it up because it leads to another one of my pitches here.
Yes.
And I know I've talked about this on the podcast before, and I don't care because I feel so strongly about it. And that is the tragic, before its time, just star-crossed, too beautiful for this world.
Okay.
2012 film, John Carter.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you brought that up. That is like one of my biggest sad stories ever.
I'm
glad we're on the same page here. So, little
Oh, sorry.
background here. So the movie John Carter, based on a series of books written by Edgar Rice Burroughs. You may recognize him as the guy who also wrote the Tarzan novels. But back in the day, these books, the Barsoom series, were just about as popular as Tarzan. Like, these were immensely popular early 20th century works. They take place on Mars, which is called Barsoom in the fun Martian language, and there is a genre called, what's it called? Planet and no, darn it, it's like Planet and Sandals, where basically they're space stories, but you fight with swords.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
So
up your alley.
yeah.
I encountered these books a few years before the movie came out, and I thought it was really great, just really good story that I really enjoyed. And when I saw advertisements for the movie, I was thrilled. Went to go see it. I thought it was good. I think it was flawed in some ways, but it was a good first step. It was supposed to be the first part of a planned trilogy.
Right.
And then for a whole series of reasons, which I could talk for like 45 minutes about this,
Don't get me started.
that largely have nothing to do with the quality of the film itself, the film failed. It was a colossal box office flop.
Yeah.
And once
Breaks my
that
heart.
happened, it became evident they weren't going to make the trilogy. So we have
Exactly.
this one movie that, although flawed, I think is still really good, and it's just sort of sitting there on a cliffhanger.
It is. It's a cliffhanger.
and
It's terrible.
it's such a good story.
I know.
So here's my proposal.
Okay,
painful.
we're ready.
You take it. You first of all you change the name. It's not John Carter because
Right.
the original book is called A Princess of Mars.
Exactly, which
I
is a
get
way
that
cooler title.
It's sort of like what happened with Percy Jackson, right? It's like, we need 20-year-old hot people. Boys aren't going to see a movie called A Princess. Yes, they will. Okay?
Actually, yes, they will.
Yeah,
Princess
exactly.
Bride exists.
Okay.
And so
Thankfully.
we'll make it a limited run series on a streamer. So it'll be like 10 episodes, and it'll take its time, and we'll have A Princess of Mars. Here's a question for you, Christina.
Yes.
Live action, or should it be animated? Should we do something different with that?
Ooh, actually, I still
What
love.
if it's wait. What if it's animated like in the old-timey like sci-fi style? Like the Golden Age comics, that style?
Like, give me an example. Give me an example.
Ooh. You know how the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, Across the Spider-Verse have like a comic book style
Yeah.
to the animation? We have something like that, only looks Golden Age sci-fi for John Carter. Yes.
Okay.
Where is the president of Netflix?
The problem is, I disagree
In
with
his
that,
mansion.
but that's only because
Uh-oh.
because the live action was so mesmerizing to me, as far as the concept of what would it be like to have life on another planet. And for me, that just sparks my imagination as a live action. Like, what if I was princess on Mars, right? So you kind of put yourself in the shoes of these people, and it's just so yeah, I would personally argue live action.
Okay, you could be onto something there. And the actors in the film do a great job.
Fantastic, in my opinion.
That kid from what is it? Friday Night Lights is the title role. John Carter does a great job.
Which kid from Friday Night Lights?
What's his name? Taylor Kitsch.
Oh my gosh, I love Friday Night Lights, and he is the best part. Oh,
It's
I need to rewatch that show again. That's one of my rewatch comfort
You should
shows.
watch him in John Carter.
I should.
But so yeah, and to your point, Christina, there's nothing wrong with the live action version. I just think because I think if we lean into the old feeling of it, because again, the appeal of the Princess of Mars books is it harkens back to this like golden age of sci-fi, like this early 20th century sci-fi. So if we really lean into that with like the old cheap paperback novel, golden age comic book look, I think we're onto something there. And yes, I will be willing to write a treatment if anybody wants me to. All right. Anybody else have any more pitches? Because I do. I can keep going.
I think I'm good. I think we have a lot in the pipeline.
Well,
We
I
gotta
guess
work
we
on.
are technically running low on time.
Yeah, low on time. I just love stories, and I just get so excited when storytellers honor the integrity of an actual story and characters and what makes a good story. And I wish they weren't as few and far between as they actually are.
Amen.
So that's my grumpy old woman,
Grumpy young
comment
woman.
for the end of the podcast.
Well, I will.
So as a podcast of the Anselm Arts Guild, like, guys, go create and be and do wondrous things.
Yeah, just don't try to remake The Lion King again, which they're doing. They're making a prequel to it now.
You're joking.
I'm so
Are you
grumpy
serious?
about it.
Okay, let's not.
Anyway.
We're not
Don't get
talking
me
about that.
started on that. But yes, listeners, let us know what you think. Are there any other suggestions you have for something that could actually be remade? If so, let us know in the form of a, say, 5-star review on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And as y'all can tell, things are winding down at the Anselm Society Digital Pub. Fire's down to embers, the customers are trundling home, and you've polished off your final glass. Once again, Believe sees a podcast of the Anselm Society Arts Guild. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you next time.